My name is Sheila. Welcome to, I don't know, I'm going to just call it story time for, the Knowledge Vault. That's right. We're going to call it the Knowledge Vault. So this is a new, relatively new thing for me. So it's going to take a minute to get used to it. But in case you're in the middle of this, please go back to the beginning of the playlist. There is an entire playlist, and this is session number 26. If you are following along in the book, we begin on page 85. And today's date is August the 22nd, 2023. It is a Tuesday. I don't know why it feels right to put the date on everything I do, but it always has. Okay, so we're on session number 26. It is now appropriate through the shift of greater understanding within the key group of visionaries to begin the focus of the conception of the new paradigm of experience. As is the pattern, many will receive this cosmic stimulation, and the perfect few will respond when the opportunity to participate is presented. Keep in mind that this continuing process will move through phases of birthing within the awareness, individually and collectively, in a subtle, calm, transcending movement. Oh my gosh, I feel this is so true. That's what I feel within me. Do not expect a massive jumping on the bandwagon type of reaction. It will move outward in a whisper of awareness. Again, think in terms of the patterns of nature. When you observe nature, you see spirals in the slow process of growth, as in the spiral of shell formations and within the functioning of breathing. Though invisible to form, it is the process that begins at birth and carries each mammalian form through its sequential life. I have said this, I don't know for how long. We are nature in and of itself. Source, what we call source, is nature in and of itself. It seeks life continually. That it is, and I know creationists don't particularly care for this because evolution was made such a horrifically dirty word. But I think it's an evolution of it all, including the consciousness, the life force, the Godhead that resides within, the fractals of one, if you will, because that's what we are. We are fractals of the one. And we have access to all of the one, should we choose. I feel that's what we're coming to know. Back to the book here. Consider the birthing process through the format of breathing, expansion, and contraction, causing movement toward the goal within a transcending spiral and carrying it to completion. You will see a traveling outward of conceptual information, and in the breath of consideration, again, a traveling outward, and an in-breath of shared discussion, moving toward the desired focus of new experience. The intent fueled by desire for the new, for new, the experience will bring forth the process, which is being built upon the foundation of foci provided by multiple levels of awareness, with supporting intent for this situation to move into a new paradigm. I think there was something that threw me there, and I want to go back and read it again because I feel as though that is a transposition of words, but I want to make sure this is a channeled piece. And any channeled piece, the people argue with it, and the channelers say no. The channeled entity says no, leave it as is. But it sort of threw me off, so I want to repeat it. Consider the birthing process through the format of breathing. Expansion and contraction causing movement toward the goal within a transcending spiral and carrying it to completion. You will see a traveling outward of conceptual information, and in breath of consideration, again, a traveling outward, and an in-breath of shared discussion, moving toward the desired focus of new experience. The intent fueled by desire for the new experience, yes, there was a transpose there, will bring forth the process which is being built upon the foundation of foci, provided by multiple levels of awareness with supporting intent for this situation to move into a new paradigm. So while reading that, I'm asking myself exactly what this means. And I'm being shown that, as I've suspected, we all, even those that many would consider not awake, intrinsically are moving in this direction. And there are multiple layers, multidimensional layers of support for what is happening. Many don't even realize what is happening, and they're just moving it along. And I have suspected that. Back to the book here. This is the appropriate moment to consider a self-defeating concept that needs to be corrected to ensure success. This is the appropriate moment to consider a self-defeating concept that needs to be corrected to ensure success. Through long-planted misinformation by the religions on your planet, you think of the focused assistance as coming to you from the outside. You look outward at the surrounding lights in your sky at night and presume it is coming from, quote, out there. Indeed, it is possible to exchange energies at the level of manifestation. However, the flow of creation is from inside out. It is an expansive process. Again, we must remind you of the in and out flow of the breathing process. What your scientists observe as burnout and destruction through black holes, etc., is instead evidence of the breathing process incorporating the spiraling changes of shifts into higher vibratory dimensions. As this happens, appropriate energy fields move through this process. If it is all energy, then what is observed would long ago have been devoured by one single black hole. Here again, you can begin to understand the magnitude of the plans of the negative focus in attempting to create, through the process of pushing this galaxy through a process opposite the creative flow into an opposing reality. What is perceived by the scientists as the compaction of energy into a tiny ball of massive molecular weight is, of course, total nonsense. The energy is expanding within the conversion process by increasing its vibrational levels as it moves into a new paradigm of expression. Is this galaxy, or a small portion of it, going through the black hole process? There is no awareness of it. What if it was true? If it were to happen, it would hardly be a hellacious experience. Let us return to the point. To say that our plan is in motion does not mean that conscious contacts with seemingly appropriate beings of shared purpose and dedication is near completion. It is this process of conception that is the focus of these lessons. That which is to be accomplished at more subtle levels depends upon this process proceeding within defined parameters. The outflow of this information to those of commitment is encouraged. It is most meaningful in the whole of it, but each can stand alone as is appropriate. Key words to trip the intercept triggers have been for the most part avoided, and the references to beings and processes of, quote, interest are made as subtly as possible. It is time that the usage of those be virtually eliminated, as our focus of intent is on information that educates and informs you of the true nature of yourselves and the energetic forms and fluctuations of the creation of which you are an integral part. Let that sink in for just a moment, because too few of us actually do. I mean, we do create as we move, and that's that. I'm sorry, that to me that carries responsibility in and of itself once one realizes that this is how all of this exists. Let us make a point, back to the book, let us make a point clear. This focus of information is not, quote, God speaking directly to you. That which you call by that name is a confused and misunderstood scramble of misinformation. What has happened is that what could be personified into the creator of this galaxy is not the focus of the whole of all that is. To make this understandable, perhaps let us return again to the breathing process as an example. The underlying all that is pure potentiality. And even finer levels beyond that, which are imperceptible, because to perceive it is to limit it. As it at its conceptual level, breathing is expansion as you breathe out, rest, in breath, rest, and repetition. Potentiality is most available for, quote, absorption, and in parentheses, big generalization, in the moments of rest. Throughout the entirety of the expression of potentiality, which is capitalized, into experience, are varying degrees of awareness that have begun their return trips by first realizing they are holographic, tiny fragments of the focus of their creator. This creative focus is in turn a tiny fragment of a finer, more encompassing focus of the potentiality that underlies a greater creation that has at some point been birthed from that which lies beyond in an unknowable state. Will we return to that state of unknowingness? Is that our goal at the farthermost reaches of eternity? Doubt it, for it appears that in order to move through the return trip, just exactly the opposite is necessary in order to progress. You must remember one of your greatest distortions in understanding creation, that word is capitalized, at this level, is your concept of needing to measure experience as linear in what you call time. It is also a great barrier for those of us who are too interested in experience to bother to measure it. We can conceive of no reason to do so, for we know divine order has no sequential parameters. As we return to our discussion of your concept of, quote, God, you can now see why we have substituted the term, quote, creation and creator instead of using God, in the hope that we could begin to change your perception. The word, quote, God itself conjures up feelings that cause inner turmoil in many, since at a deeper level, they know that the religious teachings through a long sequence of experience has brought them only confusion. It has given them a distorted representation of the source of their origin. It is important that those who intend to bring forth the new paradigm have at least a basic clarity of the nature of their identity and of the source of their existence. What lies beyond this galaxy is, at this moment, outside the necessity to understand. To know that it is, and that is all caps, is all that is necessary. Our focus lies within the creation of our creator. He, androgynous but in the masculine creative mode, can be called God, but frankly, a new name is recommended. You may address communication to him, but it is only received when it harmonizes with the creative outflow of his expression. In his name, that's in quotes, as an expression in your Bible, was meant to tell you to place your focus of prayer within that purposeful intention. You are to make a request that intends creation within the harmony of his attitude of, quote, all that is necessary to bring what you desire, end quote, is available for your use. You are a fragment of him, and through you, he, in parentheses, the I am awareness of your connection, is experiencing expansion of the total awareness that is you/he, and that is in quotes. As you do this, it is a shared experience. As a fragment of him, you create by attraction all your experiences. And I feel like that's true. But using the law of intention in harmonious cooperation within his expansive mode is how you create purposeful and new paradigms of experience. It is hoped this information is a blessing through the expansion of your understanding of who and what you are. Yours is a glorious heritage. Celebrate it. Oh, my word. I'm going to go right into session number 27 here. We're on page 88 in case you're following along. When your perception of time is adjusted to include the possibility of giving up the necessity of measuring experience in blocks rather than allowing it to simply flow through your experience as unimportant, you will have surpassed a great impediment to your progress. Earlier in the existence of your planet, there was not a tilt in the axis. And so the seasons, as you know them, did not exist. I've heard this before too. And I think there's like some evidence of all of this with ice cores and things like that, right? This confined plant and animal existence to the more moderate temperature zones. But the growth was more prolific and extended further into the colder areas that you might think because of adaptation. The effect of the tilt caused you to have the seasons as one more block of experience to measure as time. A continuum of days and nights within an unchanging overall weather pattern brings a more relaxed focus on the necessity to measure time within survival experience. Before the distortion of the energy of competition, cooperation was one key to existence. When the lifestyles of what you refer to as indigenous tribes in the equatorial latitudes of your planet are considered, there is much less emphasis on measuring blocks of time and more cooperation within the survival groups. There is less competition between groups than is depicted in your movies, excluding areas like Africa because of planned outside influences. These are considerations to be included within your new paradigm. The greater the unbalance of the planetary inhabitants, the greater the imbalance of the planet as a whole. Within the changing of the galactic cycles lies the opportunity for rebalancing both the inhabitants and the planet. This does not mean that the planet would necessarily move 23 degrees back to perfect balance, but indeed some change could be made. It is interesting to note that there is a move among what you would refer to as, quote, liberal political views toward the elimination of competition within the educational experiences of your children. And it is being met with stiff resistance. Of course, there are ulterior motives for this, would further calm the children into less and less creative modes of experience. Athletic competitions bring forth desires to excel, and the concept transfers over into desire to excel in other areas. This has been a larger stumbling block for their plans than was anticipated. As an interesting side note, the greatest improvements in lifestyle, art, and music happens during lengthy periods of peace when there is no competition within warring conflicts. The history of China has long periods of freedom from being overrun by other cultural groups and little intermarriage with outside groups. Unfortunately, the overpopulation counterbalanced. These improvements were not widely available to all the citizens. Nonetheless, the focus was turned inward toward the contemplation and desire for greater experience of uplifting and more joyful existence. Much was accomplished during those periods. The new paradigm must include within it the desire to lift the human experience above the pivotal thought and behavior patterns that force distortions to be repeated generation after generation. The desire to do this is apparent in the myriad of self-help books, tapes, and well-trodden paths to the psychologist and psychiatrist offices. The approach is from the outside inward by considering the action and attempting to find the buried experience that has caused the reactive habits. Here again, envisioning a new paradigm and focusing on experiencing this instead of fixing the old wound, empower the desired new realm of experience. I would say that's true, as I've experienced just that, my own self. Back to the book here. However, even if accomplished, the ability to maintain a different level of experiencing within the surrounding environment would be difficult indeed, as more than one crab in a basket will not allow any to escape from the basket. So it is with the human experience. I think that's why so many people, once they start waking up, crave the company of others who are as well, because of that whole crab basket thing. The new paradigm must be a cooperative group focus of desire within a clearly stated purpose that can be held in focus for a period long enough to bring it into manifestation. I think this might be why I felt so driven to have conscious conversation, to make it more commonplace, to make being open to hearing new ideas and considering something else other than what we've always been sold as at least a plausibility, and this is all part of that stepping out of our box, right? Back to the book here. You can now understand what the focus group must accomplish is to create a clearly stated purpose that is appealing to all of humanity. Attached is the apologia of an essay written in 1899, long before instant communication. It chronicles what happened when it was published in a small, inconsequential magazine. It was called, quote, "A Message to Garcia." If this one inspirational message could travel the globe, then think what effect one encompassing message of purpose could do within our goal. Though the focus of getting the information out about the existence of the evil planners and of their deeds, as far as you have been able to discover them, is indeed the necessary first step. It has not rallied a reactive response. It is just as well. For as we have said before, victim martyrdom, which it might have engendered, are not part of the true paradigm of experience within the creative flow. What is needed is a pivot point that can be accomplished before the closing of the cycles. It need not be accomplished in a simultaneous moment. It is best as an event within each individual's conscious awareness. I've said that a lot, that the veils are actually within, and they are thinning for most, and they're gossamer for a lot of folks, and they will drop at the appropriate moments and not a moment before. I feel that's been my feeling on it, at least for myself. I can say that. So I'm going to read that again. It is best as an event within each individual's conscious awareness. That process does not make it less of a pivot point. It would lay the groundwork for the greater pivotal changes in conscious awareness that will happen within sequential experience. Again, we remind you that free will allows those who choose to remain in the pattern of present existence. Do not, and this is all italicized here, do not be concerned with those. The ingredient of free will in the soup of experience teaches us another of the universal laws, that of allowance. Personal responsibility is just that, personal, and that's all caps. It means that one is concerned with the choosing of his or her own experience and is not responsible for the experience of others. All are allowed to participate within a group focus of cooperative experience or not. However, choosing not to participate does have its consequences. Those who choose deliberately to withhold their participation in ending the present paradigm will be allowed to continue it elsewhere in a somewhat different format. They are allowed to choose, and allowed is in italicized, that's why I said it like that. They are allowed to choose their mode of experience in this situation. Allowance is the most difficult of the laws to be learned at the third dimensional level because of the deeply ingrained need to control. That's true, man. I'm telling you, I've come across that myself. We got to allow everybody to make their own choices, even if we don't agree with their choices, because that's not what we would do. Control is transcended through the practice of the law of allowance. You want to be allowed to do what you want to do. You got, by golly, better be allowing everybody to do what they want to do too. At this point in this discussion, we encounter the situation of child abuse. Children are within the influence of their parents' belief systems. What the parents believe and focus upon draw experiences to the family group. Information of past family history is encoded within the combination of genes, which accounts for events happening to some members of a family and not to others. It emphasizes the fact that parenting involves more than dealing, and that's italicized, with planned or unplanned children. It is the personal responsibility of each parent and both parents together to raise the children within an understanding of the wide scope of influences such an undertaking involves. It is important at this point to discuss the capitalization of various words in this text. It is intended that this material be as free of religious, and that is italicized, connotations as possible. Current and past experiences with priestly manipulation and control causes immediate shutdown or distortion of understanding information that contains these references because of the misinformation about the control of what you call God. We can assure you that the Creator could care less if you honor him by capitalizing all references to him. He is much more interested in whether or not you harmonize within the outflow of his creative process. There is a problem because the very words you choose to indicate awareness of this flow of energy engender reactive feelings. This cannot be helped, so it is best to at least do away with all the capitals. It is one trigger that is best left inactive. It is our intent that this continuing discussion brings a deepening understanding with regard to the purpose that looms in your immediate future. It is hoped that it strengthens and supports your commitment to continue on with your progress along the path of completion of this segment of experience. However, don't plan on long R&R leaves as its ending. And that's the end of those two. And this next one looks to be like pretty interesting. It looks like a letter or something. And so I will pick that right up. And I hope you're enjoying this. If you stumbled across this, there is an entire playlist. I hope you'll go back and catch those as well. Until next time, I hope that you will continue to move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself. I'm convinced that's the way forward into a new paradigm, because we do create as we move. I feel that too. So stepping out of that box is the most important. So next time, be well.